Good afternoon. We are at the Allegheny Cemetery on the north-facing slopes overlooking the Allegheny River right inside Pittsburgh. And this cemetery was established in 1844 during the Industrial Revolution as a way to reprieve from the congestion of the cemetery buildup in Pittsburgh because they ran out of room. And lucky for us, we have 3 generations of our Marshalls that are buried in this cemetery. We also have 2 generations of the Cuthbertsons who married into the Marshall family. So let's go take a look and see if we can find our Marshalls and Cuthbertsons of the Allegheny Cemetery. Good afternoon. We're in the historic Allegheny Cemetery of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, home to 124,000 souls, including 3 generations of our own ancestors. We have the Marshalls and the Cuthbertsons. Now, John Marshall, the Marshalls and the Cuthbertsons are here. The Marshalls here and the Cuthbertsons over here to my right. Now, John Marshall was the patriarch of the family, and he left England with his wife and his children in 1818, and he arrived in Quebec, and they headed down the Allegheny River down to Pittsburgh, where John Marshall opened a foundry shop. The foundry shop was called Marshall Company, and as it grew, he started giving ownership and operations to his children, and the name became Marshall Brothers. Later on, it became an elevator company called Marshall Elevator, and finally, there is a division called Marshall Electronics where they worked at. So John Marshall is our 4 times great-grandfather, and he was born in 1785 in England, and he died here in Pittsburgh in 1849. He was very successful, and his children had a great legacy to inherit and live up to in his business. Now, he had a son. He had a lot of sons, but he had this son here, Robert Hunter Marshall. And Robert Hunter Marshall is our 3 times great-grandfather. And Robert married Adaline Cuthbertson, our 3 times great-grandmother. So let me tell you about Robert Hunter Marshall. So Robert was born in 1815, or 1814, and he arrived with his father in Pittsburgh in 1818. So he's only 4 years old at the time he arrived in Pittsburgh. And he married Adaline in 1835, and they had at least 8 children, including his 4th child, Robert Sowers Marshall, who is our 2 times great-grandfather. So at the age of 35, Robert sat at the helm of the Marshall Brothers business, and in 1863 he went off on his own to co-own the Millville Mill. Now, the Millville Mill became the largest employer of Pittsburgh for the next 25 years. And Robert Hunter became extremely successful, and he built prominent houses. He's basically a steel magnate during the Industrial Revolution. So unfortunately in 1881, the mill burned down, and eventually in 1888 it went bankrupt and he had to sell it. So over here is Adaline Cuthbertson. And Adaline is the daughter of Ralph Cuthbertson and Mary Cuthbertson from Ireland. And she was born in 1813 and she died in 1905. Now, Robert Hunter and Adaline were Methodists. They were prominent leaders in their Methodist church in Pittsburgh. And in fact, just after the first Methodist church was founded, they helped it grow, and when they died, the church went out of business. So they were pretty much running the Methodist church, or helping certainly financially in the city of Pittsburgh. So Robert Hunter Marshall and Adaline, they had a son. Excuse me. They had a son, Robert Summers Marshall. Now, Robert Summers Marshall is our 2 times great-grandfather. He was the 4th of the 8 children of Robert Hunter and Adaline. He was born in 1843, and he died in 1890. He died 1 year before his father died, so he never really had a chance to take on the Marshall Brothers business or be successful at that. So Robert Sowers married Dora Helen Barlow, and Dora Helen Barlow was the daughter of Arthur Craven Barlow from County Wexford, Ireland. And now Robert Sowers died, and Dora Helen was a widow with her 5 children. One of them was Arthur Barlow Marshall, who married Juletta Prue in 1909, and they moved out to Covina, California, where they purchased a citrus orchard, and then later on to Pasadena. And in 1920, Dora Helen and her daughter, we call her Dora E., she had a daughter, Junior, they moved out with Arthur and Juletta to live down the street on Pasadena Avenue, or San Francisco Avenue in Pasadena, next to her son Arthur Barlow Marshall and Juletta Prue. So unfortunately, we lost touch with the 2 Doras, and we're not really sure where they ended up. Now, Adaline Cuthbertson, her parents are over here. This is Ralph Cuthbertson. He was born in England in March 14, 1776, 3 days before the British gave up Boston Harbor to George Washington. And he died April 18, 1822. And his wife was Mary Cuthbertson. And she was born in Bellamana, Co-Atrim, Ireland. And she died in 1845. Now, these two, these two had their daughter Adaline, who married Robert Hunter Marshall. So there you have it. In the Allegheny Cemetery of Pittsburgh, we have our 3 times great-grandfather, Robert, his wife Adaline, their son Robert Sowers Marshall, and Adaline's parents, Ralph Cuthbertson and Mary Cuthbertson. And thank you very much for listening. I hope you have a very good day.